They tell you it's about faith, about devotion, about something bigger than yourself. But what if, for some people, it's also about something else entirely? What if putting God first, one of the most sacred phrases in human language, is sometimes the most sophisticated psychological defense mechanism the human mind has ever created? Not for everyone. Not always. But for some people. God isn't just a belief. God is a hiding place. Society has always taught us that the highest form of a human being is someone who surrenders. Surrender your ego. Surrender your plans. Surrender your desires. Every religion, every tradition, every ancient text whispers the same thing. You are not in control. Something greater is. And there is beauty in that. Real, undeniable beauty. Because when life breaks you, when the diagnosis comes, when the relationship collapses, when the dream dies, humans need somewhere to place the unbearable weight of not knowing why. So we built God. Or rather, we found God. And we learned to hand him our heaviest questions. Society rewarded this. It called it virtue. It called it faith. It called it strength. The person who says, God has a plan, in the middle of their worst nightmare is celebrated. Admired. Held up as an example. And perhaps, rightly so. But the frightening part is, nobody ever asks what they're really handing over. Here is what psychology has quietly observed. Some of the most devoted people, the ones who pray the longest, who surrender the most, who repeat, God first, like a lifeline, are also some of the loneliest. The most anxious. The most terrified of making a single decision on their own. Not because faith is a weakness. But because for them, faith became something faith was never meant to be. It became avoidance. It became a way to never have to trust themselves. Because if God is always first, then you are always last. And that feels like humility. But sometimes, it's just self-abandonment wearing a holy name. Psychologically, there is a pattern here that is almost invisible, because it hides inside something beautiful. When a person grows up in an environment where their emotions were dismissed, where their choices were punished, where love felt conditional, the nervous system learns a terrifying lesson. My judgment cannot be trusted. And so the mind searches for an external authority. Something safe. Something unchallengeable. Something that will never leave. God becomes the perfect attachment figure for a wounded inner child. Not metaphorically. Literally. Psychologists call this an anxious-dependent attachment transferred to a divine object. The person doesn't pray to connect, they pray to survive. Every surrender to God is secretly a surrender away from themselves. Every, it's in God's hands, quietly translates to, I don't trust my hands. And this is where everything changes. Because the peace they feel after prayer? It's real. The relief is genuine. But underneath it, unexamined, untouched, the wound remains. The belief that they, alone, are not enough. Maybe you know someone like this. Maybe, you are someone like this. Someone who uses faith not just as a compass, but as a replacement for your own voice. Someone who has prayed so long for clarity that you forgot you were allowed to simply decide. Many people don't realize that real faith, the deepest kind, doesn't silence your instincts. It sharpens them. The person who truly puts God first doesn't disappear into that choice. They become more themselves because of it. But the person who uses God to escape themselves, they are deeply, quietly suffering. And the tragedy is, no one around them sees it. Because from the outside, it looks like peace. Perhaps the real question isn't whether you put God first. Perhaps the question is, what are you putting God in front of? Because if the answer is your fear, your pain, your voice, your worth, then you're not worshipping. You're hiding. And the divine, whatever you believe it to be, was never meant to be a place you disappear into. It was meant to be the place you finally find yourself. Some people find God and lose themselves. The rare ones find God, and finally come home.